Well, Rob, you're back into work nice and early, but the boys come back next week. Let's look ahead to pre-season, and it's only a matter of minutes since we last finished. It's flown by, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it does. It does. When it's the good and the bad of getting to finals. The good thing is obviously you want to be there and you want to be contesting the big games at the end of the season. But what it does do is it just shorten out that off-season period. Having said that, the lads, by the time they come in next week, they've all had 5 weeks off. Most of them will be ready to go. We'll have them in for a good month of hard work, and we'll give them another break then before we come back and really settle down to the preparations to run into the Premiership Cup, which we'll also use as our pre-season fixtures. But I think if we try to add in even more fixtures, we're just going to find the season getting a little bit too long, and we run the risk of, I'm not going to say burnout, because we don't really burn out. We tend to thrive on long seasons, but I think we've got the opportunity to try and lengthen out this pre-season a little bit. With the World Cup pushing the start of the Premiership back a bit, I think it's important we make the most of that. We've been in 4 long seasons to make sure now we get ourselves really well prepared in this period when we've got the opportunity to do that.
Obviously, like you said, you're used to this now. 4 successive finals means you're used to the shorter turnaround time. Does that prepare you, or the plan now of how to get the boys ready?
Definitely. I mean, I've kind of seen this more and more now over the last 4 or 5 years. As longer you've been involved in these longer seasons, that actually what you do start to realise is a Premiership professional player, their season is 12 months long, and within that they have to find their times to maximise their development and their rest. And so for a lot of guys, actually, this period is a period when they can really maximise their potential and develop. For other guys, they've probably had that. You look at someone like, say, Sam Simmons out with an ACL. He had 6 months there of almost one of the most intense pre-seasons an individual player can ever have, and so he's had that block, and now he's had the opportunity to have a little bit of a rest, and he'll be able to fire on again. It's going to end up being pretty much, other than the 3 or 4 games he was involved in, pretty much a 10-month pre-season for him. So his last year of professional sport has been totally different to someone else who's played more rugby. And I think what we've become very good at here is realising that each player's block of 12 months as time goes by is slightly different, and you've got to be able to work with them each in a slightly different way to make sure you're maximising their potential. And we've got a great set of conditioners here, a great set of great medical team here, and physios who understand that and have been getting the best out of the guys individually and consistently for quite a long time. And some of that's done in pre-season, but an awful lot of that goes on through the year.
Continuity is a word you like to use often, especially around your squad and everything. You haven't made a huge amount of changes, but 2 of them sadly have come in broken.
Yes.
It has meant you've had to go out and get Stan South, and there's other options in the pipeline. But is that disappointing, or is it going to be easier for them just to settle in, just to say?
It's like anything. There's positives and negatives. Obviously, the positive is that both of those lads got injured slightly before the end of last season, and so probably it allowed us to get on top of those injuries from a very early time, and before they really get involved here. Probably for a new player, the worst time to get injured is that day 2 or 3 of training, when just as you get established, bang, off you go. They've had an opportunity to start healing and start recovering already. That's actually got them some early involvement here at the club. We're confident with both those guys that they'll be fit and available in around the start of the Premiership again, which is fantastic for us. But again, it's also allowed us to go out and look at players using the injury dispensation that you're allowed within the salary cap. We've signed Stan, who we think is a very interesting and promising young player. As you say, there are a couple of other options that we may yet bring in using that injury dispensation situation. So what we've got to do is make sure that we use whatever scenario drops to be positive about it. The rules are there, the regs are there, and we've got to make sure we get the best out of all of them that we can. And for me, I'm really looking forward to working with all the guys. I think they've already been very impressive to the conditioners and the physios with how hard they've prepared to work to get back from their injuries. And it's not a great start, but at the same time, they've got, as I said to you, earlier, they've got a block of hard work pre-season done already. They might not be able to be up and running around because of their injuries, but they've been able to work in other areas of their physical development from kind of day 1 from when they had their operation at the end of last season. So as I said, there's swings and roundabouts about each 12-month block a player goes through, and we just got to maximise the block that those 2 lads can do.
People will have seen on their social media Johnny Hill and Alex Cuthbert had injury or have had shoulder operations and that. Stuart Townsend though is making really good progress. So just give us an update on those sort of guys, where they're going to be in terms of pre-season and when you'll see them.
Yeah, well, I mean, the operations that Alex and Johnny have had on their shoulders, they're a standard kind of 12, 13, 14 week rehab. So again, that would picture them to be back in the reckoning around the start of the Premiership season, which is kind of what we were hoping for. Again, they'll have a slightly different training block now, but that doesn't mean it's a bad training block. And sometimes, especially with someone like, say, Johnny, who's that younger player, almost really at the start of his Premiership career, it's almost important that you deal with any little niggling issues very early and give them the chance to train fully as often as possible. And it's been a bit the same with Alex. We've got the chance there to deal with a little bit of a grumbling shoulder injury that's going on. Well, let's do it now. We've got a slightly longer pre-season. As I've said, the World Cup's pushed the start of the Premiership back a little bit. It's the right management of these guys to get them to the level where they can train fully for as long as possible. And if it's a slightly extended rehab period, then normally well, so be it. But we've got to make sure that as the squad and as individual players, we look after them as well as we can to create a group who are robust and strong to last on what's going to be a very long and tough season if we want to be there at the end.